Happy Spiritual Sunday to you all. Welcome back to another Spiritual Sunday. Awakening of consciousness. The whole point of the Kabbalah Center and all the projects of which the Spiritual Sunday is one is to bring to humanity the technology of the soul. Because as we often speak about, the soul is the only thing that's in common to every human being on earth. It comes from one creator. It has essentially one technology by which it operates. But like any other technological device, even though the technology is the same in the soul of every human being on earth, each of us has in this world free will to use that technology, to use that power any way we want, for good or for bad. As we've spoken about also in these last few weeks, it's our free will. We decide how to use that which has been implanted inside of us. But as we speak about today, everything in the universe, to the most minute detail, is cause and effect. And as much as that may be difficult for many people to believe and accept because of what we see in the world around us, it's still an absolute, eternal truth, cause and effect. We're going to be speaking about that in the all-seeing eye today, right after. First we'll read something from Karen's book, Simple Light. We'll have our affirmation. And then we'll get into the consciousness of today. So Karen writes like this. And Karen says, feel the energy of the person next to you and treat him as you yourself would like to be treated. To be able to look at another and offer love instead of judgment is the greatest restriction and the greatest level of a spiritual being. All of us have times of judgment, but when we treat others with respect and love, we can transform that judgment into mercy. And as we often speak here, it's not only for ourselves, but for everyone else. The more you and I act with love and kindness, as we're about to affirm, the more we're spreading that energy into the world. And like Rav Ashlag makes a point from all the Kabbalistic wisdom for thousands of years, environment is one of our few truly free will choices. As we all know, the environment we put ourselves in will have an impact, an effect on us. It pushes, like we say, peer pressure. What is peer pressure? A person doesn't want to do something, but the pressure, imagined or otherwise, of people around them will determine most of the time how they'll behave. They'll give in to the peer pressure. So you and I, through the Kabbalah Center and this Spiritual Sundays, we're creating a peer pressure around the world for people to behave, as we're going to affirm, with greater love, kindness, and compassion. More light-like. And so to consistently raise our consciousness, we're going to say our affirmation together. And of course, I encourage you to say it to yourself numerous times over the week. So let's say it together. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. And so I want to talk to you about the all-seeing eye, which means what? Traditionally, people think, oh, God is watching. God is always watching. God is keeping an eye on us. And therefore, we better act how we believe God wants us to behave so God will like us, give us blessings, give us good things, think nicely of us. But it hasn't worked. If that were really the way people behaved, then the world should be a lot better than it is today. Should be ideally no fighting, no chaos, no discord, etc. Doesn't mean we'll all agree on everything, but there won't be the fighting and the anger and whatever over it. So then obviously, either people don't believe, don't care, or we could almost say, it doesn't work. And yet, with all things Kabbalistic, there has to be a fundamental truth to everything. What we're learning in the Kabbalah Center, what we're learning here on Spiritual Sunday, and we'll speak about today, is how to see through the external, the covering. Unfortunately, the way things have been presented to most people, most of the time, for thousands of years, which is not the Kabbalistic truth, but a form that is based on Kabbalistic truth. But as we know, that AI program, that opponent in our head, corrupts it along the way as it gets expressed in the outside. So how we'll look at it, how we'll come to understand various things, will determine the impact it has on our lives. But yes, there will always be a similarity. Like, in simple terms, every religion is looking for peace in the world, right? Heaven on earth, etc., etc. But unfortunately, the way the Kabbalistic soul technology has been taught out in the world through the influence of that AI program has created what we call religion, but unfortunately, often creating more divisiveness than unity. The soul is of the same technology, every soul, because it comes from one creator. This is what we're learning here. And so, what is this idea of, or where does it come from, the all-seeing eye that's watching us, the all-seeing eye of God that's keeping an eye on us? So, like sometimes we'll speak about in the physical world, whether a person believes in gravity, electricity, or not, it's going to have an impact on them. Jump off a second floor balcony, they're going to fall. They can't say, I don't believe in gravity. So what you and I are learning is the fundamental, foundational system that the world was set up with, that we can learn, but we have to sort of dig through some of the false ideas and misperceptions that we've grown up believing and or being taught to see the Kabbalistic technology. Because it's not about God. We've talked about it recently. The Creator, what we call God, in simple terms for us, is just the emanator of light. And it emanates light, this infinite power of creation, 24/7. And therefore, we are constantly being influenced by it. It's shining on us all the time, but it's up to us to determine how to use it. And so let's look into the foundational spiritual truth behind this idea of the all-seeing eye of the Creator. So I want to quote from Ecclesiastes. And it says in Ecclesiastes like this: "The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness." Okay, so I can almost hear my teacher's voice in similar things like this. A wise man's eyes are in his head. Well, where else do we have eyes? Of course, eyes are in the head. Makes sense, right? Here are eyes. Eyes are in the head. It's not in my body. It's not on my feet. It's not in my hands. It's in my head. Part of the key is the fool walks in darkness. So you and I have come to understand these things are encoded. And that's this one aspect of the spiritual work, is we have to break the code to see what the technology that we can use to benefit our lives are. Because it's another way of offering us in this physical world free will. We have free will to try and look at it literally and say, oh my goodness, eyes in our head. Well, it's biblical stuff thousands of years ago, and they were so primitive and they're saying it this way or that way. No, you and I understand it's a code. And as we break through the code to the truth, to what's being encoded in that, then we can use that technology to improve our lives. Okay, so let me ask you this. Have you ever done anything reactive? Have you ever acted with a little bit of impatience, a little bit of anger, a little bit upset, a little bit of jealousy, etc.? So why? Why would we do that? So relative to this coded message from Ecclesiastes, a wise man looks with the eyes in his head. Meaning what? You and I often speak about it. Consciousness is everything, we affirm every week. Which means, really, I want to focus my eyes, if you will, my consciousness, on what's going on in my head. Because in my head, we have those two voices. The true voice of my soul, the voice of the Creator inside me, and then we have that opposing voice, the original opponent, AI, that we planted there, to taunt us to not do light-like behaviors. And so the wise man has eyes in his head, meaning we're looking inside and we're seeing or hearing, perceiving the two voices and only listening to the voice of the light. The fool walks in darkness, meaning not looking within. So like we said, why do we do things reactive? Because our eyes, more the physical eyes or the physical senses, looking outside. Well, of course I acted that way because they did this and they said that and they acted that way and they triggered me, pushed my buttons, and I just gave it to them. Okay. Fool walks in darkness because you and I understand every reactive behavior has a consequence of just bringing back more reactivity, bringing back more difficulty, bringing back more obstacles. But our perception is, no, they said a nasty thing, I just said a stronger nasty thing or got angry and screamed at them that they can't do that anymore. Okay, we didn't come here to act that way. We came to act like the light. But we feel in the moment because we're looking outside of ourselves instead of being the wise man looking inside, we're looking outside at the external. So the Zohar has a very kind of cute story. People on a boat, like a cruise ship, let's say. And one man in his own room decides he wants to drill a hole in the floor of his room. So somebody next door hears the noise, runs over there and sees he's drilling a hole. He says, wait, stop, don't drill the hole. The guy says, why does it bother you? It's my room. He says, well, fool, if he cuts a hole in the boat, the water's going to come in and sink the ship. So the lesson for us is to understand everything we do affects everybody else. Because we technically are on a one-ship Earth. Yes, there's 8.5 billion compartments, let's call it, but whatever we do in our personal, what we think is a secluded life and environment, affects everybody else, because we're on the one ship. Everybody's interconnected. Everything we do affects everybody else. And what they're doing is affecting us. Everything, all words, thoughts, and actions are affecting the quantum soul of humanity. As we often remind ourselves, there's only one. And therefore, in the Zohar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai encourages us. Live your life when you're about to say, think, or do something. Pause for that moment and think. The world, humanity is exactly balanced 50-50. And the action you are about to do will tilt the balance of the world, the influence on humanity, to the side of whatever you do. If a person does a negative action, then it's tilting the balance of the entire world towards negativity. When we do something proactive, something sharing, something more light-like, then we're tilting the balance to the side of light. In all ways, shape, or form, all the great Kabbalists are teaching us, keep in consciousness that everything you do not only affects everyone else and everything outside of your personal environment, but because there's cause and effect, exact, no exceptions. Whatever you perceive by looking outside with fool's eyes, everything is exactly cause and effect, and therefore everything that comes back to us has been caused by a seed we planted this life or a past life, but it's exactly our consequence of our behavior. The Baal Shem Tov, the great Kabbalist, says very simply, in the 99%, right, because he perceived it, he says the world is a mirror. Your world is a mirror. Everything is a reflection of you. And as I was preparing this, I'm thinking, the physical mirror, I'd never thought of it this way. You look in the mirror, what do you see? A reflection of you. That's why we use a mirror, to see, is my hair okay? If you're wearing makeup, whatever it is, everything looks good, the clothes match, etc., etc. You're looking for a reflection. But even in simple physical terms, the mirror is a piece of glass with whatever the coating on the back, that through the glass gets reflected your image. So even in that way, you could say the glass is outside of you. But because of the reflective whatever paint, it reflects you. In a similar way, yes, we look at the world and there are other people close to us, far away from us, saying and doing. But in essence, they are like the glass of that mirror. The cosmos reflects. And therefore, even though we see them or hear them, it's a reflection of us. And our spiritual work then is how to see, how to perceive. Like we said, the wise man looking inside their own head, their own consciousness. How is that behavior that they're doing, that are pushing my buttons, how is it a reflection of some aspect of me and my behavior? It doesn't always look the same as theirs, but it'll be of the same material. Fear either influence one person to be overly aggressive, get in the person's face because they don't, they're fearful that something could happen, whatever. Another person, same thing. The button of fear is pushed, but the way they'll act is like we usually think of fear. Cowering away, running away in fear. But the universe is reflecting us. So whatever it is, start looking at ourselves. And even as we say, You ever walked in somebody's house, you have a friend you've known for a while and it could be anything. They bought a new car, or maybe easier to think, they moved into a new place and they decorated the way they like. And you know their personality, and you walk into their house and you say, wow, Mary, so beautiful. It's a reflection of your personality. It reflects your personality. Happy, light, whatever, joyous, however you want to say it. But it's a reflection of our personal environment, is a reflection of us. In fact, I've heard people say out there in the world, if I want to know who you are, introduce me to your friends. Because whatever we've chosen, the environment we've chosen, meaning the people, places, and things, is a reflection of us. So if a person hanging out with a lot of bad people, it's got to be because they have some aspect of that bad in them. Hanging out with a lot of good people, kind people, nice people, like attracts like. There has to be something of a similar form inside us. So then, to get to the ultimate point today, what's the real all-seeing eye? If they're saying God is the all-seeing eye, and we're saying no, there is no God out there that looks nicely on some, not nicely on other, judging one, mercy on the other, rewarding somebody, punning. No. That thing that generally is called God, Kabbalistically, like we said before, is just the emanator of light. The emanator of light. The conscious power, intelligent, conscious power of eternal bliss. It fills our soul. Our job in this world is to make it manifest. So then the all-seeing eye, you could say, is the universe, is our soul. It sees everything. Like a mirror. You're looking in a mirror, anything you do, any movement you make, the mirror is constantly reflecting it. Meaning it's always seeing us. It's always reflecting us. Our soul records, if you will, sees everything we've ever done this life and all our past lives from the beginning of time. And it's recorded there. So it sees. And because the universe is that reflector, or we've said cause and effect, then everything we've ever done in any lifetime is bringing effects, results, consequences back to us. So whatever is showing up in our life, in your life, is an exact effect of actions you've done this life or past lives, even if you forgot. People say, well, I don't know my past life. Some people don't even believe in a past life. Okay, but even this lifetime, do you remember everything happened to you when you were 5, 10, 15, 20? Yeah, you remember some good things. You maybe remember some bad things, but do you remember everything? No. Do you remember everything you thought or said or did 3 days ago? Everything. Not just, okay, you went to work, you came home, you went to a movie with your friends, that kind of thing. Everything. What were you thinking as you were driving from home to work, or from your, to your friend's house to go out to the movies with them or whatever? No, we forget those things. But they all have the impact of cause and effect. They're all going to come back and create some influence in our life. So, everything a reflection of us, the all-seeing eye. And because in essence the all-seeing eye is our soul, which is a piece of the light of this infinite creator, it has the consciousness and the intelligence to not only bring back to us a consequence or an effect of our behavior, but it also, at its fundamental level, wants you and me and everybody on earth to have eternal peace and bliss, heaven on earth. And therefore, the reflection means that when a person does something unlight-like, yes, instant gratification we've talked about, but it's short-lived. And so that non-light behavior goes out into the world, to the mirror, and reflects back as somebody or something doing non-light-like behavior towards the person, so that they have an opportunity to wake up, realize, wait a second, pushing my button of anger. Anger is not a light-like behavior, so like we teach, pause, realize it's a feeling of anger, the button of anger, and then think to yourself, I don't want anger to come back to me anymore. What do I want to come back to me? Kindness, forgiveness, tolerance, compassion. So that's how I'm going to emanate light with a conscious thought as I'm acting with kindness, compassion, tolerance, what have you. So, as the Kabbalists say, we want to be able to see the world like we talked in the beginning, like the wise man, with the eyes in our head. I have the voice of my opponent that's taunting me to do non-light-like behaviors. I have the voice of my soul, my piece of the light of the Creator that fills the one infinite soul from which we are all extensions. As I will open my spiritual eyes to see past the 1% physical material world, then what will I see? I will see the infinite light. Because when you stop and think objectively, if there's infinite light, then there's no place for the light to go away. So when people feel they did something negative and light went away from them, no, where's it going to go? If the light is infinite, there's no empty space for the light to go away. So, reminder, cannot be empty of light. Nobody can take our light. The only thing that really can happen is we, heaven forbid, but by negative behavior, can cover up the light so that it doesn't shine into our lives and manifest more of those blessings that are already ours, already given to us. But remember, consciousness is everything. That's why the battle is always in our head. The wise man has eyes in his head, looking in, looking for the light, wanting to listen to the light, looking around the world and see light in everything. The Creator that emanates light, that's all it sees. So metaphorically, when the light, metaphorically, the Creator looks at this world, all it sees is our soul. Pure light shining out of all of us. And the truth of being one unified soul. Extended out, like we say on that spiritual internet, extended out to 8.5 billion bodies, but it's still one soul. And this is why the Kabbalists, I believe, I didn't look it up, sorry, I think it was King David, uses the phrase, Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid. I want to see, envision the light of the Creator in front of me always. Because if I see the light, then I'm only going to respond to things as the light. So like we say, yes, people will. We have to be objective, yes. Nobody here in the Kabbalah Center denies people say nasty things or do nasty things or whatever. At the same time, what comes back to each of us is not dependent on what they do, it's dependent on how we respond. And therefore, when we feel something pushed our button, we learn pause. Ideally, first just start sending light and then ask, what am I feeling? What button is being pushed? Fear, jealousy, ego, greed, insecurity, anger, judgment. And realize, I don't want that anymore. And then start sending light and act in its opposite: kindness, love, compassion, generosity, humility, tolerance, etc. Because I see the light. I see the light giving me the reflection of my own behavior. Whether I'm consciously realizing what I did that brought this in, doesn't matter. If I act in this moment that it is from the light, I know that it's exactly cause and effect in that way. So then it gives me the opportunity to take away that spiritual mud, or we called it those curtains, that have been hiding my soul's light from shining into the world. And if I can remove those curtains and let the light shine, number one, I keep more darkness further away from me. I remove some of the chaos, the stress, the anxiety, the difficulties, the obstacles, etc., because I've transmuted them. And I'm attracting and revealing more love, kindness, blessings, happiness, joy, protection, prosperity, health, all the good things. So, and spiritual eyes to see the light everywhere. Now, without going into details, as we are coming to the end of our tikkun, or you could call it that karmic process, as the end gets closer, what do we see? Again, the physical and the spiritual related. It's just learning how to see what they mean and how to let the spiritual control the physical, not the other way around. So as we're getting closer to the end, what do we see externally? In the 90s, way back in my first few years in the center, the Rav used to use the example, look at technology. You go in the medieval times, and then there was the industrial revolution, so there was a little increase, if you will, of technology. And then starting in the 80s and 90s, whoosh, exponential growth. Today, it's practically like you walk into a store, buy a brand new computer or a brand new cell phone, and by the time you walked out the door, they already have the next generation. It's going that fast. Why? Because the closer to the end of the tikkun process, which this can be, if you look at it objectively, validation, we're coming to the end, the deadline, by which we all have to be shining all of our light, removing all of our veils, all of our blockages, all of our negative behavior, and let our light shine. As it's coming closer, then, like we said, things are speeding up, which in simple terms means cause and effect. Faster, less time, less space between cause and effect. But as the physical things, like we say, the all-seeing eye of God, of tradition, looking down on us, and now we're understanding, no, the all-seeing eye is really our soul, the reflection of the universe. It's the way we see things. It's our eyes. So in that similar way, as we get closer, and like this, there's more technology and more things like that, because it's giving us an opportunity to speed up our transformation process. But that AI program, that opponent in our head, that challenger, that obstacle, will taunt us to stick more and more to the 1%, less and less of the 99% light. And so I share with you a couple ideas that we'll see what I mean. Because when these physical things come along, we tend to think, oh, like technology, here's the answer to the world's problems. Something in technology. But let's take another look at it. Because as you and I have spoken before, unless you're brand new, there's two universes. There's the physical five-sense world based on the biblical code, the tree of knowledge, good and evil universe. Five senses, which we all know can be fooled. They're not perfect. They're not infallible. Blow a dog's whistle, our ears don't hear the sound. Not because there's no sound, our ears aren't sensitive enough to that sound. Optical illusion. Our eyes are not infallible. They can be fooled. So the world of the physical, in and of itself, is just eternal chaos until the 99%, which the universe of all the solutions, all the answers, because it's the universe of the infinite light. When you bring the light into this world, then the light will take away the darkness, which means takes away the chaos, because it takes away our misperception. It helps us. The more we make the connection to the 99% world, which is why Zohar is so essential, because the Hebrew letters combined the way it is in the Zohar, the Aramaic language, wakes up the 99%, the infinite light inside our soul. So the brighter that light, the clearer we see things, and we're able to dispel, to see through the physical blockages of the five senses. We're able to, as we said, see through the negative behavior or words of other people. Again, not that we have to hang out or not that we have to say they're doing the right thing, but we see through it to the light in their soul, so we can make the connection to the light in their soul by removing our blockages and sending light to the people, and acting like the light when we didn't feel like it. Growing our spiritual muscles, expressing more of our 100%. So let's look at this. So, and please don't go off into what the outer world is doing. This is between you and me sort of thing. So people talking about surveillance, right? People checking up on everybody, surveillance. Even they're saying satellites out there looking, blah, blah, whatever you want to say. And again, no, I don't want to get involved in the 1%, and I encourage you not to. At the same time, like we've said today, our soul is surveilling, if you will. It's following us. It's seeing everything we're doing. When you talk about, everything we do because of the digital stuff, everything can be tracked. Okay, it's the same thing. Universe of cause and effect. We can't get away with anything. Things we think when people say, well, what they do, like we said, the boat. The guy in the boat is drilling the hole in his room because he's not perceiving that it's one boat, and cutting a hole in his piece where he's sitting or he's in a little cabin is going to sink the whole ship, because it's only one ship. It's not separate and individual. So yes, everything we do is affecting everyone. And this is why you and I are learning how to make greater and greater effort, that it's more kindness, more compassion, more charity, more humble, more caring, more appreciative, like that. Okay. And then there's two of my favorites, because some of you know, my technology is getting better. I kind of chide myself. I may be at 2016, 18 now, technologically. But Kabbalah, today, this cryptocurrency stuff, it's not like a physical dollar. It's not even paper money. It's not a check like that. It's kind of ethereal. But what was the original? The original cryptocurrency, in that understanding, is the light of the Creator. Because in simple terms, and if you already know all this stuff, understand it in this way, cryptocurrency is, you can't put your hands on it. It's essentially money in exchange. So this invisible stuff can buy your house, your car, and all these different things. Can turn into, even though it's invisible, so to speak, or metaphysical, it can turn into the car, the house, the furniture, vacation, whatever. The light of the Creator is an infinite force of creation. As we will share, unblock ourselves to shine more of our light out into the world, the light will form into whatever we need when we need it, which can be, quote, blessings, we think, the good things, the nice things. And it also is the good things, so to speak, of the challenges that give us an opportunity to unblock ourselves, to remove some of the chaos that's been sitting there that we don't know, haven't been aware, what's the cause of the chaos. We've just been giving into the AI program, it's other people, the cryptocurrency. And then, of course, the other favorite, the one soul internet. There's only one soul came out of the endless world. We first split into Adam and Eve, and then we split into the kids of Adam and Eve, and then we kept splitting Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all the people, blah, 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 till we have today. But still not split as in disconnected like the internet, right? The internet is a 1% thing relative to the 99, meaning there's one internet, but it has, if you want to call them tentacles or whatever, connections from the one to every computer or phone or whatever on earth. But still one. It's still united. It's an internet, meaning it's connecting all of the devices that are connected on the internet. On the soul level, there's no way not to be connected. There's no way to disconnect from it. There's only using it as a means to shine light, like we said, because everything we do is affecting everyone else. And if we're shining more light to the entire one soul internet, meaning to every person on earth, then we are more protected from other people's negativity, as light protects us from darkness. We are influencing them with the light, so to wake up their soul, which is the light of the Creator, greater love, kindness, generosity, compassion, humility, forgiveness, apology, tolerance, etc. And we're affecting everybody. So the Kabbalists in the Zohar says a person cannot learn Kabbalah, this wisdom, but doesn't mean intellectually. What they mean is learn as in engraving it in our heart and soul and living it every day. Cannot until it's called the circumcision of the heart. So we all know people who are cold-hearted, hard-hearted, and you and I, we've been heartbroken, so we put this foreskin, if you will, a veil around our heart. Don't want to be hurt, don't want to be hurt. The thing that we generally fail to remember, that means that the goodness of our heart can't go out either. If there's a wall that's built, the wall stops people from coming in. It also stops the individual from going out. So circumcising the heart means constantly living in love, kindness, compassion, light-like behaviors. By doing what? Because the essence of circumcising the heart, as the Zohar calls it, there are true eyes. The spiritual eyes are in our heart. When we look at the world from the eyes of our heart and not the eyes in our head, the physical eyes, we will see the light in everyone. We will see the infinite light, or at least more and more we'll see the light that's all around us, the light that fills the universe. And then when we can see the light, we're going to be running after the light in all ways, shape, or form, proactive behaviors, because as we see it, and we see the glistening, we feel the vibration of goodness, kindness, infinite bliss in it, then of course that's all we'll want to do, is act like the light. Open the eyes of the heart, all the illusion disappears. We see beyond the five senses. We see beyond the physical material, what they say, what they do, etc. And we will see then greater miracles everywhere. So there is an all-seeing eye. It sees and records everything, as we said. Our soul, the universe, reflecting back to us everything. So today, as we will live from the eyes of our heart and share light, like the wise men, eyes in our head, remembering we have those two voices, and the true voice is the voice of our soul. So we stay conscious, we listen and act upon only the voice of our soul, opening up our heart, the eyes of our heart, to see the Creator's reality, that there's only pure and perfect beings. Yes, physically we can all do negative things temporarily, but still you and I want to activate more and more of the light in us and them by sending the light. And as we live that daily, and more of us doing it, the light becomes the critical mass, the majority in the cosmos, which is the goal, the mission of the Kabbalah Center. Spread Zohar, teach people this as we're speaking today, that they'll understand why it's beneficial to me to shine more light and connect with the light in the souls of every person on earth, no matter what their outer behavior. So when there's 51%, let's call it light in the cosmos, then everybody is going to be drawn by their soul to greater actions, of love, kindness, and compassion. And when there is that 51%, so the balance, like in the old time scales, is tilting more and more to the side of the light, that, in essence, is what love your neighbor as yourself, the Messiah, and heaven on earth is made of. So may we all today make a greater commitment to behave with greater love, kindness, compassion, humility, generosity, appreciation, etc. that we can make. We can make. We have the power to make. We've been given the power of the Creator that we can make heaven on earth a physical reality in our days. Amen. So as we do every week, encourage, make sure you, your friends, people on the street have a Zohar in their pocket or have one in their house. The more Zohar there is, the word Zohar itself, illumination, splendor, more light, less darkness, more light. Everybody sees with the eyes of their heart and less with the eyes of their head. And therefore acting from their soul and not from the egoistic opponent AI program. And so also, thank you, those of you who are regular donors to these projects, the Zohar Project, the Roots Project for children, the Scholarship Project to help people who want to come learn, who can help tilt the balance, but right now they need some financial help to take the classes or what have you. So I want to appreciate that. And if you have not yet, or you're not a regular donor, start donating. Whatever you're able to donate, just start. $5, $10, $18, whatever, but just get started on a regular basis. Because remember, like we said today, what you do to support the projects of the center, not only is it affecting the entire one soul internet, every human being on earth, which I believe there's nothing else that's doing that, speeding up the process, but also now you're enlisting, if you will, on a spiritual level, 8.5 billion soul power to help you in your life, cause and effect. Okay? So let's do one of our meditations. This 72 name of God, MEM CHET YUD, is to be able to see the light in us. And the more we can see the light in us, the more we can see the light in everyone. So MEM CHET YUD. The Hebrew letters just shine the light. They're primordial. They came out of the endless world, took on these forms that we've given the name Hebrew letters or Aramaic alphabet. In a similar way, nobody created the body. When the soul, that piece of the Creator, came into the physical world, it took on physicality. Same. So this combination, to be able to see the light in us and in everyone. MEM CHET YUD. So just let the shapes be engraved in your mind's eye. MEM CHET YUD. And then I ask you, sitting comfortably in your seat, feet flat on the floor, hands in your lap. Take a few deep breaths, breathing in the light of the Creator through the breath, through the nose. Hold the breath for a moment. Exhale through your mouth. Allowing yourself to relax into the light that's being awakened inside you, to have a greater sense, connection with the infinite light all around you. The infinite light that fills the universe, fills every person, fills every aspect of life. with love and care, that true unconditional love. So as you're circulating this light through your breath, allow yourself to relax into this embrace of this infinite light, opening your heart and your soul and your mind to the light of the Creator. In this relaxed state, returning to your normal breathing pattern, focus your mind, your consciousness on the MEM CHET YUD that's just above your head. See it vibrating with the pure light of the endless world, the infinite light of eternal goodness, peace, love. And together we allow the MEM CHET YUD to enter through the top of our head, let it flow, shining its light from head to toe, unblocking your true inner being, allowing you to see with the eyes in your head your true soul nature, pure and perfect light being. MEM CHET YUD. Allowing each of us to see, feel the vibration of that pure light inside of us. Our piece of the one soul filled with infinite light. And yes, we may have done reactive things. Does not diminish the light. And so in order to dispel the darkness of our negative actions, let's together envision a beam of light from our heart and soul, MEM CHET YUD, shining out to the heart and soul of all our friends and family. Awakening in them a greater awareness of their pure and perfect light beingness. Opening the eyes of their heart to be able to look in their mirror and see as the Creator sees, a being of light. Having an awakening of consciousness that it is the light in them, that as they will unblock by removing their negativity, by shining this light out into the world, that not only is their life more blessed, but so is the entire world. And so let's now envision this beam of MEM CHET YUD energy flowing out of us to them, and now we extend it together from the hearts and souls of all our family and friends to the hearts and souls of all humanity. And that light waking up their consciousness to the truth that they are in control of what they create in their life. And they have a greater sense of the beauty and the blessing and the goodness that's inside them waiting to shine in their life. And so, as with you and me and them, the voice of our soul is speaking louder, easier for us to hear it, decreasing the voice of that opponent in our head, decreasing the voice of the opponent in their head. So the message of their soul is much clearer. The vision of the good that is already ours is already theirs, clearer. And the awareness that it just needs to be extended out from us through words, thoughts, and actions of love, care, and unity to manifest greater blessings for each of us, greater happiness, joy, all the blessings of the light, and also greater awareness of how and where we're still blocked. That we can now take the actions to unblock those parts that are still hiding our light. See on the faces of all humanity greater happiness, enthusiasm, revelation of this truth. And a greater desire and commitment to accelerate the process of heaven on earth by accelerating the actions of greater love and kindness and compassion, all the light-like behaviors. MEM CHET YUD, as it's awakened in all the world, tilting the balance of cosmic power, cosmic environment, more and more to the side of the light. Achieving more quickly the critical mass that will bring the end of all pain, suffering, and death. And let's together anchor this into our heart, soul, and mind by taking one more deep breath and slowly exhaling, and open your eyes. Thank you for joining us today. May your life be more and more blessed as you live this technology. And may we all be blessed with greater opened eyes of our heart to see the miracles and wonders all around us, to see the miracles, the light in everybody else, that we live as greater and greater expressions of our true light beingness. God bless.